Good morning, welcome to our September all-staff meeting. Who can believe it's September already? All right, to get us kicked off, is there anyone here who has started in our division that wasn't here to introduce themselves in October? Do you have your 3-minute song prepared and a brief monologue in Shakespearean iambic pentameter? No? No? Just kidding. All we need is your name, what department you're working for, and maybe which institution you came to us from.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shanika Thrash, and I'm over in Career Services as a Career Development Specialist, and I am an alum of the CSA program here, Spring 2019.
Welcome. I'm going to read through, excuse me. Oops. I saw you put your hand out.
Dylan Montes de Oca, Associate Director of Admissions for Visits, and I come from Florida International University down in Miami.
Welcome. We are so glad to have y'all here with us. And without further ado, I'll be turning it over to Will and Ashley. Will is still a attorney, right?
I was trying to figure out what this is. All right, good morning again. So we have a couple of quick updates, and I'll let Ashley go first because she has the most exciting update.
Most exciting update, Best of the West, October 1st nomination deadline, yes. So I am the university co-chair for Best of the West. Brandon Manning, shout out, is our SAEM representative for Best of the West. So by October 1st, we're looking for nominations to be submitted, and we are specifically looking for nominations with content showing people going above and beyond their job duties. We know every single person in this room is incredible, that's why you were hired, but Best of the West is specifically looking for something above and beyond, that little special touch that makes a difference here at the University of West Georgia. So keep that in mind, it's coming up, and it is just fundamentally important to recognize the good work that's going here on campus. So please submit those nominations. The other thing I'm excited to tell you guys about, my two favorite topics in this world, leadership and food. We are going to use the feedback submitted by you guys in our all-staff Excel sheet, if you will. A lot of people said they wanted more networking opportunities. A lot of people said they wanted food at these events. So we are going to pilot SAEM Breakfast Club. You'll see sign-up sheets on your table, so please write your name and email down if this is something that you're interested in so that we know how much food to order. Thanks to Michelle Hawkins for that. But we are going to have anybody that's interested meet us here at 8:05 before these all-staff meetings kick off. Anybody who puts their name on the sign-up sheet is going to be emailed a leadership article, so just very small article. It's not going to take up a ton of your time, but then we're going to come here about 25 minutes before all staff starts and just kind of discuss that article. We're going to have members of our senior leadership here to give us their inputs on it. We're going to eat, we're going to connect with members that we may not get to talk to that often, and so this is just something that our committee is really excited to kind of pilot, kick off, see what you guys think about it, and go from there. So if you're interested, put your name and email on that sign-up sheet. I'll come around and collect them, and then I will email you the leadership article that we're going to discuss. Does anybody have questions about either of those?
Great. And just as a reminder, the first one will be October 10th, and then the next meeting will be in November. We won't have a December all-staff meeting, but depending on what happens in October and November, we'll see what we do in the spring. So we're hoping to see you all. All right, we good? All right. So just as another quick update, also something else that came from the suggestions was some people wanted an avenue to be able to submit questions. So what we're going to do is on the Fridays previous to these meetings, an email will be sent out to the SAM listserv with a Q&A form. It's on the scrolling thing, it'll come up eventually. And so if you have a question related to whatever, you can submit it to the Q&A form, and then we'll check with leadership or whoever needs to, whoever can answer the question, and then we'll have answers to that question in the following meeting. So said, so for the October meeting, I'll send it out on the Friday before the meeting, and then you can submit things there. Another thing is, if you've ever wondered how stuff gets up here, what happens is we send emails out and we ask for updates, but what we're going to do now is, as opposed to sending emails out to individual people, we're going to send an email out to the division with the submissions where anybody can submit something for this news and noteworthy. You can upload files as well if you have a flyer or event or anything of that nature. So it kind of gives everybody an opportunity to give an update, and so I'm excited about that. There's what it looks like there, and we'll also send that out on the Fridays previous to the actual all-staff meeting. So I think that is it, and I think we're ready to get this thing started. First, we have Dale Dropper. He's going to give us some exciting updates from ITS, and
you set the expectation way too high. Thank you, and I want to begin by saying thank you to all of you. I was in a meeting a few weeks ago with the admissions team, and we're working with them on kind of streamlining some of the processes associated with onboarding students. And at the beginning of that meeting, I took the opportunity to say thank you because of all the hard work that you do to help get the students here. And once they are here, to help them to feel loved and cared for and taken care of, I really want to express my gratitude to you because I have 2 students who have graduated here and who are back here for a second time, and now I have a 3rd student who's here as a dual enrollment student. So thank you so much for all the work that you do, and I want to express my gratitude to you. So I'm here to talk about something that I'm sure will terrify you, and that's multi-factor authentication. And all of you already should be familiar with this because Duo is something that you use to get into OneUSG, correct? And those of you who use Banner administrative forms, you already are familiar with using Duo to get into those forms, correct? Am I wrong on that? Is anybody not using Duo? Now we have to take that over to our students. So we're actually tonight migrating my UWG and Bandwidth over to a new single sign-on. Basically, what was happening beforehand, we were using a CAS login, don't worry about the technical jargon there, to be able to log students in. Nothing changes for them. They use the same username, password, gets them in. The big difference here is that we're getting them ready for Duo because the Board of Regents has required us to put multi-factor authentication in front of forward-facing services for students. So Bandwidth, my UWG, are just the first pieces to fall in that, if you will. Eventually, and this will be a change for you as well, we've got to get this in front of Gmail, but that's going to be later on. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to start with something we knew all students used. We started an email campaign at the beginning of August to try to get as many students as we could to register, self-register for Duo, and unfortunately, let's see, go back, here we go, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead too far. Unfortunately, we only got 25% of them to do so. Hence the reason why we're putting it in front of my UWG, because once we put it in front of my UWG on September 30th, we're making the change to SSO tonight, and when we turn it on September 30th, it means when they go to sign in to my UWG, it's going to walk them through the process of registering for Duo. The idea is to get us to 100% of students, or as close as possible to 100% of students with multi-factor authentication registration completed before we hit registration later on in October and November, and before we get to managed services. If you're not familiar with it, we're having to move Banner offsite. We're moving it to the USG, and that's effective the first weekend of November. So we're trying to get all of that work done. So we've got to get this red part up here completed. And so this is kind of where you come in, is that as you meet with students, we're just asking you, if you're dealing with them with events, if you're dealing with them with any type of advising or working with them career services, just ask them, have they registered for Duo yet? And if they have not, encourage them to do so. And all they have to do is they go to our website, they can just type in Duo in the search page, and then that will bring them to the page where they need to go and register. The other thing we're going to do, this is currently the My UWG login page, and I apologize, I've been going to a conference this week, so I was pushing to get this put together today. This is the new login page. The difference for the students is if you'll notice, there's a place to sign in here with username and password. That goes away. Now there's just a button. It'll say login. When they click the login button, they come to this page, and this should look familiar to you. This is where they actually sign in like we currently do for my OneUSG sign in. Okay? They would sign in there, and then they'll go into nothing really changes. It's one button on the front page, it changes. And we're going to modify this page right here. This is just a test page. We're actually going to put Duo registration over here on the right so that they can say, we're going to advise them to go register the devices. But beginning on September 30th, when they come and sign into MyUWG, if they have not registered there, it's going to require them to do authentication, and if they have not, it'll walk them through the process of registering their devices. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to bring that back to you. We're going to be sending out email messages starting next week to students, and we're not pounding the students who've already registered. We know who've already registered, so we're only targeting students who have not registered and advising them to go and register and letting them know that on September 30th, to get into MyUWG, they're going to have Duo authentication turned on. We'll step up our staff at the SITS office over in the library, so that if students have any issues, they can come by SITS during that week. But really, when we were dealing with the start of the semester, we had we were all geared up for people to have problems with Duo. And they didn't have any problems with Duo. They figured out Duo. It was other things that they were having issues with. So we don't expect this to be a big hurdle for them to overcome, but nevertheless, there'll be some students who have some issues. And before you get too far, I do want to mention that this typically, most students we expect to use their phone like most of us do, but some people may not want to use their phone. They may not have a smartphone. There are other options. So for example, there's a key that they can purchase at the bookstore that they can use to be able to get a key, if you will, a code to punch in for Duo authentication rather than having to receive a phone call, receive a text, or use the app itself. So that's pretty much what I've got. Any questions before I give it back over to you? Yes?
So I heard you mention it's not the main topic brought this day, but that Duo would go in front of Gmail.
Eventually, yes.
When that happens, does Gmail become a more secure place for transmitting?
I don't know if I would say it becomes a more secure place. It just ensures that the person, we know who it is who's actually signing in. And there's several things. It's going to take a while for us to get there because, as you know, Gmail right now is actually fully out into the cloud. And we replicate your username and password changes to Gmail. The thing we have to make sure of is that because Gmail is such a high available service, we want to make sure not make it less available because people can't get back to our campus. So we're working on those, but I don't know that it would change the security stature per se of Gmail. Yes?
So our students that are currently
Yeah. They're good. Yep, they're good. If students, if you already have the student employees who are having to sign into one USG, they are good because they already have to have Duo set up. And that's one reason why we were at the, if I go back here or not, the reason why we were at the 23% is we started the day at 15%. So we got 8% with students to voluntarily go through the process. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
For those that use Google's multi-factor authentication, do we have the option to keep that, or would we have to do it?
You talking when we moved to Gmail? When we did the Gmail? I suspect it would be Duo. Any others? Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, so when it comes to the, Duo, you said how starting.
So September 30th is when we're going to turn it on for IUWG.
Okay, so that, when we said that the page is switching to now they'll have to click the.
Oops. So this will happen, this change right here is going to happen tonight.
Okay, so that changes.
So the only thing that will happen really is right now I have a username and password here, and they have the login button. It'll go to just a login button, and then once they click the login button, they'll come to this page.
So then when we do that, once they sign in, will have them do the.
Yes, then you'll get the Duo page that says pick your way the way you want to validate your identity. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I should have added that slide in there, but thank you for clarifying that. Sure. Yes, ma'am. Currently, no. Yes. And so what will happen, and it's a great point, I'm glad you brought that up, is the reason why we wanted to put MyUWG and Bandwidth in front first is so that we can get to that 100% participation by students. Once we get to the 100% participation, the Board of Regents has mandated that we put all student-facing systems behind multi-factor if it will support it. If we get MyUWG and Bandwidth there, they have to register for classes, we'll get to our population, then we'll have to start piece by piece adding these other systems with multi-factor in front of it. It's a great question, I'm glad you brought that up. Well, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to waste any more, but thank you so much for your help. If you have any questions, you can email me, ddriver@westcott.edu, and I'll be glad to answer those. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. Friends and colleagues, it's good to see you. So I'm going to talk for a few minutes this morning. I, as usual, will try to be entertaining and make no promises. I'm going to talk a little bit about student well-being and the student well-being initiatives that we're working on. If you are on the Student Well-Being Council, would you stand up? I know you're in here, I see you. Yes. Thank you. You're seeing people from across campus. We also have faculty and working constantly trying to get students. It's the harder part. I don't know why. So we're going to talk just for a few minutes about what is the Student Wellbeing Council, what are we doing, and then what can you do, which is the most important part, right? So there we go. We are looking at a number of different things as part of the Student Wellbeing Council, and we're looking at a number of ways that we're approaching this and looking at ways that we may approach this differently. So when I'm talking, it's a lot of it's theoretical and sort of like, how are we going to do this? We don't know yet. The answer is we don't know yet. So we're going to spend the first year sort of figuring out what do we need to do. So who's on the Student Wellbeing Council? These folks from all of these areas, and you'll see it's from across our division, and then we also have partners in academics and students as well. Always working on the student part. I don't know why that's so hard, except they have classes, and I think it begin. My schedule. So right now, in the Student Wellbeing Council, we're working in work groups. We have a work group that is doing student focus groups, and you saw up on the scroll earlier, what was the tagline on that, Jay? What's the tagline? Yeah, real talk. And so students are going to, we're just asking students, if you know any students that would be good to come and talk about this, how do you know the university cares about you? It's kind of the lead question, and just talk for an hour with, we hope, about 10, 12 students, and just get their take on what's going on, because we think the best place to start is to find out what do students already think, what is their experience like at the university, how do we want to grow this thing, what do they think they need, right? And so really looking at that. So the first thing we're doing, and that's just in a couple of weeks, on the 24th and 25th of September, we're going to be doing student focus groups. If you want more information about that, Jay is the lead on that team, Jay Wyatt, Angie Bradley, and somebody else's name I can't remember at the moment, but are working really hard on that team, and so just get with them. But we would love for you to refer students that you think would be good or have something to offer, or maybe have had some good or not so great experiences at the university around this idea of health and wellness. We're going to be doing staff development, and this little chat right now is the very first part of that, and talking about what do we do to care for our students, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we're also, Angie Bradley is heading up what we're calling right now the Shark Tank Project. And yes, it's kind of like the TV show Shark Tank. But what we hope to do is have student groups that will come to us and have ideas about health and wellness activities or things that they could be doing, and we'll have a prize for the winner, and we'll have a panel that chooses that student, and hopefully that'll be fun. And so a good way to engage with students. So this whole first year is really about kind of finding out where we are. What do students, what do they want? What are we doing well? Where can we improve, right? The staff development part of this is really about focusing on what we're doing and what we're doing well. I think we already care for students here. So before I start saying anything else, I want to say that, and I want you to really hear me on this. I think we're already doing a good job of caring for students here. But I think we can do better. And the reason that I think that is I had an experience this summer that really drove this home, and I'd like to tell you guys about it if you'll give me 2 minutes to talk about it. This summer my daughter was she was ill for a number of months, and after being kind of frustrated with getting the runaround in Tanner, anybody want to talk to me about that later? I'll be happy to. I need some therapy about it. But finally I called the nurse at her pediatricians, and they said, you need to take her to Children's. And so we went to Children's, and so she was there for about a week, and it was an amazing experience, actually. And partially because everybody there was really focused on getting my kid well. And as a parent, right, I mean, if I talk about it too much, I'll cry, so I'm gonna try not to do that. But as a parent, it was the most comforting thing. Everybody there was about getting my kid well. So day 2, the TV remote wasn't working and it was getting frustrating and we were tired. And, you know, you don't sleep in the hospital because they have to come take vitals all night long, et cetera, et cetera. But so we call, I guess, IT or whoever, and this very nice lady comes in and she's talking with Grace, as everybody does, addressing her. My daughter, by the way, is 18 years old. She is not a little child. She's grown. She's the age of our students. But this lady just starts chatting with her and talking about, you know, how she's in the right place and she's going to get well and they're going to find out what's wrong with her. They were running tests like constantly. We did not know what was wrong with her. And then the lady says, you know, they started talking about dogs and we're dog people, and so long story short, she goes, I'm going to get you a therapy dog. We're going to bring a therapy dog by here tomorrow. I'm going to put the request in. It's going to happen. So the next day rolls around and Grace has like 1,000 tests, and this IT person comes back around 5 o'clock and she says, I'm so sorry. I couldn't get you a dog today. They're all out of camp with the kids. But she said, but I have something for you. And she pulls over this big sack, and it's one of those giant Beanie Baby dogs. And she goes, but I just want you to know that these dogs are with you. We're all with you, and we're going to find out what's wrong with you, and you're going to get better. Y'all, this woman worked in IT, okay? She wasn't a nurse. She wasn't a doctor. She worked in information system technology. She fixed broken TVs at the hospital, right? It made me think, are we doing that? Are we giving that level of service to our students? And I think sometimes the answer is absolutely, and I think sometimes the answer is we're nowhere close to that. This woman was so invested in the mission of what everybody was doing at this hospital that the level of care that we felt, I can't tell you what an impression it made on me. That this woman who really just needed to come and change the cord on the TV so we could watch game shows during the day, right, and just be distracted for a little bit, cared about my kid enough to make this special effort. I mean, it was just an amazing thing. Now, you know, Children's is known for that. This is the level of care that they're known for. But I just want to say, couldn't this be the level of care that we're known for? Don't our students need it? You know the answer to that. You know our students need that level of care. Our students come here with, many of them with very little resources, with very little training and background to do this work. And so we in student affairs and enrollment management are in an amazing position to really step in with our students and really help them, right? So I hope that story was meaningful to you as it was to me. But when we came back, the conversations we started having around care were really different, because I was like, I gotta tell you guys what happened and what this woman did for us and how it changed everything. By the way, just a tagline, we did find out what was wrong with my child. We were able to treat her correctly, and she's now off at college and apparently spending all my money and having the time of her life, and I could not be happier to be poor in this way. So this is where the conversation started going. How can we care for our students in a way that lets them know that every person here, no matter what their job is really just here for them? Nobody goes into student affairs, am I right? Nobody goes into student affairs to get rich. Right? We go into this because we love this, right? We love these students. We love working on a college campus. We like their benefits. We like our colleagues. These are all good things, right? But we are here because of students. And so keeping this focus on things, I do think that we have done some things over time at the university. This is not a criticism at all. But we've done some things because we had a lot of growth in our student numbers, but we didn't have a lot of growth in our staff numbers, right? And so we put a lot of processes in place, and we put a lot of barriers really in place so that we can manage the load, right? And so I'm going to be asking your directors to take a look at how can we reduce barriers and increase service and engagement with students, right? So just But know that I'm not gonna come and say, here's how you gotta do this in your department, right? I'm gonna be talking with your directors about that. But I do want you to know that we're gonna be having these conversations. So Dr. Whitaker has asked me to do this. He said, we need to look at health and wellness at the university, and this is kind of, right now, the way we're going. The other thing that we're doing in this group, thank God, is we're looking at unified marketing around health and wellness. You've seen several different things. We're gonna come up with one thing. We're gonna have like a very sort of organized thing, and each department then is gonna have a way that they can plug into this thing visually so the students know what's going on. And this will all likely come under the umbrella of the Wolf experience as well, as we do that. So I do want to talk just a couple of minutes. Actually, love that photo. That's the graduation photos are my favorite. When I go to the photo bank, I'm like, yeah, I can't help myself. I'm like a moth to a flame. But at any rate, research indicates that students perform better in an environment in which they have a caring relationship with an educator. When you think about your favorite teacher in your life, what do you think about? You don't think about like, she was the whiz at math and taught me the best math, right? Like you think about a person who cared about you. At least that's what I think about. Miss Leggett, 4th grade. Shout out, rest in peace. She was awesome. And she was life-changing, really. You can do this. Did she put me in a refrigerator box so I'd pay attention to math? She did. It was the old days. They did things like that. In 1802, that's how they educated you. I'm not kidding. It's true. So, but I would tell you that our research that our good friend Alicia Welch did for us told us that students with higher GPAs are retained, like earth-shattering, documentary kind of news right there, right? But so, if we know that students perform better in an environment where they know that people care about them, and we know that students are retained when they have a higher GPA, I mean, hello? So we want to be looking at that. Also, students who face enormous difficulties, like many of our students, who don't have family support, who don't have really very good financial support, who have not been well prepared academically or socially, and all those other ways, that a caring professional adult can be a very helpful thing for them. So my question for you is, how could student retention be different if we demonstrated care to each student in a way that is meaningful to them? And that's the important part of this. Because this is a true thing. Next time we can talk about this. But how you were raised and how you were cared for usually dictates how you care for others sometime later in your life. And so we go about caring for other people in the way that we were cared for means something to us. But what I wanted to say to you is that's cool because at least you're caring, right? But the thing that really matters is what does the other person need to feel like we care about them? And that's one of the reasons why we're talking to students to find out what it is that they really feel like that they really need from us as a university. Now they're all going to say free college and we're going to agree, but we can't do that, right? So we're going to do this within the context of we have to have rules and boundaries and limitations. Now I sound like Caesar. But we have to have ways that we do business, but we can do these things in caring ways. So I also want to talk a little bit about alignment and our strategic plans. And in the student life strategic plan that the #1 priority is to foster a community of health, wellness, and inclusion. And the Student Wellbeing Council is working on that. That is what we are doing. The other, you see also how these things line up. We're doing this in a partnership sort of way. It just makes everything a lot harder, it takes longer, and it's wonderful, right? It's messy, and we like that. I don't know that we really have a 3-year plan, but we do have a kind of a 2-year plan that's loose at this point. The first year we're really evaluating what is it that students need, what do we think students need. We're going to talk to students, we're going to find out. We're going to make sure that what we're doing is aligned to our strategic mission, because that is an important part of life that we all understand. The reason that the person in IT at Children's understood this is because it's part of their culture, right? It's part of what they do. Everybody who comes through training there is trained on the child is the most important thing, right? And in our case, the student's the most important thing. We already have a lot of wellness activities going on campus. And so we want to make sure that we're dovetailing and partnering with those folks and not reinventing the wheel, because that makes no sense. We have a lot of wellness activities going on in this division. focused on our students, and so those things are happening. We're not changing any of that. I always feel like I have to say that because I don't want anybody to believe thinking, we're tearing down your rec and starting from scratch. It's not what's happening at all, and in fact, we want to use those strengths and build on them. And the other thing that we're going to do is staff training, which I'm going to talk to you guys about in a moment. And then we want to evaluate operational policies regarding care. I do know how frustrating it is because I sat right next door to the front office. Where's Joe? He's probably running the front office, isn't he? So sit right next to the front office for 11 years in the counseling center. So I know that they ask the same question over and over. I know that they have the same problem over and over all day long. And I do know how frustrating that can be, but we want to look at our operational policies in relation to care and how are we giving the best care, the highest level of care to students. And then in the second year, we are going to look at programming that's all-encompassing. We're going to be looking at marketing. We're going to be looking at a rollout. So next summer, we'll start talking about these things more specifically than we can talk about them today. And then, of course, this is my thing, but we want to be creative. I think that we have not always been able to do that or been encouraged or, I don't know, something, but we haven't been doing it. And I really want us to have some creative discussions and some creative problem solving around some of these issues. And so I'll be coming out to you guys saying, hey, what do you think? Well, we've never done it this way before. It's a great way to start a sentence. But, because we really are going to need to be creative. And I'd like to see us, let's get ourselves written up on the Inside Higher Ed and the Chronicle for they're doing some cool junk over at the University of West Georgia. That's what I'd like to see, right? They're doing some things a little differently over there. And so we're going to do that, and then we'll be evaluating what we do because we don't know if it works if we're not evaluating what we're doing. And then, I don't know, year 3 looks something like we're going to make changes based on evaluation. So the training that I'm talking about is really, we're going to start this fall. It'll likely be late October, early November. We'll probably have 3, maybe 4 sessions. I will ask that you guys all attend one of these sessions. The sessions will be about an hour and a half. And we're just going to talk about this more in depth related to your job, this idea of care and caring for students and how you care for students. This will be everybody in student affairs and enrollment management, including grad students, including professional staff, including if you work at the office and answer the phone, including if you're the director, including everybody. Everybody, okay? So we're going to dig deeper into some of these concepts of care and really how can we do this, because I don't want to, none of us want to do this without the staff really being fully engaged in this process. Some of you are really going to be like, yes, this is my thing, I'm on it. Some of you are going to be like, that's okay. Still want you to be involved, even if you're kind of And in fact, if you're you probably need to be involved more because we need to hear what you have to say about that. Like, why doesn't this engage with you? It's okay if it doesn't. This is just my thing, right? But if it's not totally your thing 100%, that's okay, but I need that feedback. We need that feedback of, like, why does this sound iffy? Or why do I not feel like I'm really connected with this purpose? If you want to be involved in this, please let me know, or let anybody on the committee know, because we're happy to encourage more participation in this. So everybody in this room is going to be talking about this at some point in the next couple of years. So we wanted to sort of introduce what we're doing and talk about that a little bit. I think that's all that I have. So thank you very much for your time and attention.
Good morning. Okay, so keeping along with this conversation about care, we're going to talk today about Hazing Prevention Week. If you don't know, I'm Darius Summers. I work in the Office of Community Standards, and I have joining me
So I had all the changes. Lauren Harris, I'm the conduct investigator in the Office of Community Standards.
Okay, so we're going to talk about hazing. So when you hear the word hazing, what do you all think about? Greeks? Anything else? Military? Band? Okay, so what's all this talk about hazing? So we're going to talk about and define hazing at UWG. So before we do that, of course, Office of Community Standards, we investigate all hazing allegations brought forth by a student or student organization. But some of the words, like you said, band, Greeks, or any student organization. So we're not the only office that are talking about hazing. Actually, we have the Center for Student Involvement. So Chris, Leon, Humphrey, and Michael, who works as GAs in the fraternity sorority life, they are also tackling this with us as we educate members of the Greek community about hazing.
All right, so the definition of hazing in the Student Code of Conduct reads, all rites and ceremonies of induction, initiation, or orientation into the university life or into the life of any university group such as student organizations, sports teams, intramural clubs, or extracurricular activities that tend to, on occasion, or allow physical, mental, or emotional suffering. It is not necessary to have proof of a person's initiation or continued membership for a charge of hazing to be upheld. And so we also have an anti-hazing policy as well. This can be found in our student handbook. And this reads, any action taken or situation created intentionally or unintentionally on or off campus that could be reasonably expected to produce emotional or physical discomfort such as embarrassment, harassment, ridicule, any action that could violate the university's rules and regulations, violate laws or policies of the parent organization, or violate any local, state, or federal laws. All rules and regulations of the University of West Georgia, as well as local, state, and federal laws, supersede all the policies of national and local organizations, and all assessments as to the appropriateness of the action will be considered within the context and the standards of total university community. I'm sorry. And I know y'all can read that, and I'm now coming in, but we do a really good job of making sure that this is in the Student Code of Conduct. Also, our Office of the Center of Student Involvement, CSI, they do a good job as well of making sure that this is in our student org book, and also our fraternity and sorority life. When you look at this policy in the student handbook, it lists about 20 different actions that could be considered hazing. So I definitely would look at that. You may encounter this year somebody coming up to you and they may be involved in an organization and they may be saying, I feel this discomfort, or I feel this anguish or suffering because of some of these actions. So we want you to be aware of that.
So those are the two policies that drive the work that we do in terms of the accountability and making sure that we do our part in offering a community of care as it relates to organizations that are students who are choosing to engage in an organization across campus. So how do you know that it's hazing? First of all, we want to say that as a staff member, we want you to report. We don't want to discourage you because you're trying to figure out, like, is this hazing? Is it not? Is what my student just shared with me hazing? Let our office do that. So report that information to us. But there's two things that we're looking at in terms of determining hazing. So one or more of these things have to exist. So the first thing is that there's some sense of coercion. So be that overt or covert coercion. And so sometimes that's difficult for us to actually explain, and students don't quite understand what that means. So we go into this conversation about, when there's a power differential that exists, there's a possibility for this coercion to happen, whether or not you're mandating or requiring it. But if you ask things of people that you're in a higher position, if you are a member of an organization and there is a potential member that are seeking organization, you ask those people of things, that here's comes that coercion that could possibly exist. The other piece is that there's physical or mental or emotional discomfort. So that can be by the participants or spectators. So we also inform students about this idea of, even as a bystander, we want to protect you, and as a bystander, if you are feeling some type of physical or emotional discomfort, then this possibly could qualify as hazing. So, how do I report hazing? So here's where you all come into play at. So we know that you are engaging students in different ways across campus within your respective areas, and so we want to inform you of ways to actually report. So hazing obviously is forbidden by University of West Georgia and by the law in the state of Georgia. So there's a couple of ways that you can report hazing, and you can share these ways with your students. All Greek members who's become part of the Greek community, they get this information. Last night I was at convocation and it was exciting to see they went over there even in the room. So you can anonymous reporting to the hazing hotline. So there's that number. You can fill out an anonymous report through UWG Cares, as well as contact the Office of Community Standards, or University Police, or the Center for Student Involvement. So those are the various ways. So one of the things that we know is students wanting to report and being anonymous. So we walk through that process with students. Of course, we like to have as much information as possible when investigating cases. So we share with students that there's somewhat two levels of being anonymous. So you can be a complete anonymous reporter, use UWG Cares, and don't put any identifying information. Well, if we have questions and need follow-up, it obviously makes it very challenging to do that type of follow-up when you're anonymous in that way. While you can share who you are, we encourage you to share who you are when you're reporting, and then we can create and offer you anonymity as we investigate. So we can make sure that we include you as an anonymous reporter, but the Office of Community Standards would know who you are in terms of following you up and getting information. So how can you help? So the first thing is educating yourself on hazing and the policy at University of West Georgia and the resources offered here. So while we are the office that investigate all hazing allegations, of course, if a student is experiencing any type of these things that we're discussing, we also have other resources on campus. Counseling Center, we have the advocates that can provide support to that individual student or students that may be experiencing hazing. So educating yourselves on those resources to be able to provide information to your students. The other thing would be, obviously paying attention to the behavior of your students. So if your students share with you or any of your student leaders that they may be interested in Greek or participating in intake or new membership process, is just pay attention to their behaviors. If there are unusual behaviors that they are experiencing, unusual fatigue, difficult sitting down, being anguished, so just any type of behavior, and they have shared with you and disclosed with you that they may be participating in membership intake or becoming a new member, just pay attention to those behavior and of course report those things to us.
All right, so we have a couple of initiatives. This year we're actually having programming around National Hazing Prevention Week. So the Office of Community Standards on September 24th and 25th will have a couple of tabling events in the Grassy Triangle from 1 to 4. We're doing a whole campaign, #WolvesDon'tHaze. We know that it's beyond just student orgs, it's also music, it's athletics. It could be anything that is a grouping where there's a power differentiating. So we want to make sure that we just educate students. We're going to be passing that out, passing out flyers, information, and really just having that dialogue that we've had today about what hazing looks like and what our policies look like. Also, our colleagues in Fraternity and Sorority Life, they're going to be sponsoring some student events the week of National Hazing Prevention Week as well. And then we're really excited because we're working with senior leadership to get a hazing prevention training that's going to be campus-wide. So beyond just our division, also open to athletics and other areas that deal with students so that we can learn about hazing as well. And we're looking to get a guest speaker, Dr. Gentry McCurry, to come and talk to us about that. So we're really excited about that. And so you'll be getting more information, so just look out for that. And then what we really want you to take away from this presentation is that you are responsible, we are responsible for investigating any reports of hazing. So as reporters, when you do hear that conversation and you're overhearing something and a student is saying, I'm not comfortable, I'm suffering, there's some type of anguish, we want you to take it upon yourself to report it. We may look into the allegations and find out that it's false, but we want to definitely look into it and do our conduct process, so help us with that. And then we just want to remember as a community to stay on par, so help us prevent, address, and report hazing. And again, lastly, no one wins when hazing occurs at the university. We know that nationwide, this happens every year where there's some hazing event that happens and a student possibly passes away. So we don't want this to happen at UWG, but we also want to just bring some awareness to this, this thing that happens so that we can all be a part of the prevention process.
Yes, so thank you all, and as Lauren has stated, you all play a very, very vital role, and most times when we learn of allegations, it's not from the individual directly being impacted, it's someone that they have confided in, like a staff member, or a parent, or a friend. And so while you may not directly be working with Greek Life or student organizations, you will be amazed in terms of how much students may disclose to you because you are a mentor, a role model, and those things. And so we want to make sure that you all are equipped. And we know that campuses that take a collaborative and partnership approach to preventing an anti-hazing culture, those universities definitely see great rewards. And so thank you all for your time. If you have questions, we can take questions. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have just a few minutes left. Does anyone have any announcements for the good of the order? Yes, Ron, do you need me to bring you the microphone?
No. So keeping with the wellness theme, next Wednesday is our annual Wellness Expo. It's from 11 to 2 in the ballrooms. If you have any questions, contact Drew or Beth Thompson, but I think we've got everybody lined up. We want to keep with that theme next Wednesday.
Thanks, Ron. Anyone else? Yes? You want the microphone?
I think I'm good. So after this, at 9:45, the Campus Center has their last reservation info session. So if you're a frequent user of the Campus Center, please come out. I'll do a reservation session. I probably won't hold y'all no longer than an hour if you have a meeting afterwards, but if you do need to come by really quickly.
Thank you. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Tomorrow night, in the Coliseum Housing and Residence Life, we'll be hosting a scary movie night for our students. So we will be showing the cities. So please pass this on to your students. You are more than welcome to come. Enjoy spending with us tomorrow night to the Coliseum at 10 p.m.
With a full moon. And Friday the 13th. Everything will be just fine. Any other announcement?